How's it going, everyone, and welcome to our very first Wixoss deck tech here on Reddozōn Japan. Today we are talking about a Ange Center Niji Sanji virtual Cygni deck. I would consider this deck more of like a mid-rangey style deck. There's going to be a lot of shenanigans involving drawing cards or putting cards from your deck into the graveyard and all of that really fun stuff. And of course, we have best girl Ange in the center. So without further ado, let's get to the top down and take a look at this virtual mid-range Ange deck. And of course, before we get started, I do want to mention, if you like this playmat, I do have them available on ReddZoneRogue.com for $30. But let's get started talking about this virtual mid-range Ange deck. This is one of the two decks that I built first, and this was probably one of my favorite ones to build because the other one kind of built itself, and we'll do a deck tech on that one in the future. But I really enjoyed this one. So let's take our main deck, set that aside for now, and then show off our Elrig deck. We are obviously running Ange as the center. This is her level 3 version. She has a once per turn effect of target virtual Cygni on your field gains plus 400 power until end of turn, which is actually very good and relevant to what we're doing. She also has a really good enter effect of return target Cygni on your opponent's field to its owner's hand, and then you get to draw a card. So it's kind of like tempo removal, so you can kind of push through a lot of damage, and you get to draw a card from it. So this is great. Pump and removal. It only costs 2 to play too, so fantastic. Of course, we just have our level 2 center. Of course, I mean, I'll be honest here. Yes, I foiled them all out because you gotta. She's best alchemist girl, so that's the level 2. We also have the level 1 center Ange. And in case you're not super familiar with Wixoss now, I'm gonna assume you know the rules of the game, but we're still gonna talk over the cards and the choices. The level 2s, at least currently, none of them have any abilities. Same with the level 1s. For the centers, have no abilities. But hey, look at that gorgeous artwork. And then, of course, we have our level 0 Ange. For the support, or the assists, we're running Lee's level 2. This is the one that you can use during your main phase or the attack phase. It costs 4 to play, which is a little much. And it says, look at the top 5 cards of your deck. Put up to 2 virtual Cygni from among them onto the field, which is super good, doing that during the attack phase. Put the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order. The enter abilities of Cygni on your field do not activate if you do it that way. So this is great. So if your opponent plays some removal and then they're going to attack you for the win, you can drop down your level 2 Lees or Lies and get some blockers in there, which is absolutely fantastic. So I really like this card. The level 1 version that we're running is similar, but you can only do it during your main phase. So this is the Assist Lees level 1. This one costs 0 to play. This one costs 4 to play. Keep in mind those costs because we are running a Niji Sanbaka deck, which does not really have any enter to help us ramp. So these costs are going to be relevant. But this one costs 0. So this is a level 1. It just says enter, look at the top 7 cards of your deck, reveal up to 2 white virtual Cygni from among them, add them to your hand, put the rest on the bottom of your deck in a random order, which is great. So this is just kind of like a draw 2 almost, but you get to pick them from the white Cygni from the top bit of your deck, top 7. So pretty good. Both of those are great advantage cards. And of course we have the level 0 Lees or Lies. Someday I will know how to pronounce her name, but still very beautiful. Of course we are running Toko as the other assist. I really love this level 2 Toko. Cost 2 to play. Very simple. Main phase, vanish up to 2 target Cygni on your opponent's field. Just unconditional vanish. Just get out of here. So you can get some, pretty good damage and tempo with this. So really like this card. For the level 1 Toko, I do the other removal. So this one has enter. By the way, like I said, costs 2. This one only costs 1, or it costs 0. And it's the level 1. I can say it right. Level 1 costs 0. Target Cygni on your opponent's field gets minus 800 power until end of turn. I mean 8,000 power until end of turn. Once again, I can say it right. And then if a Cygni's power drops to 0 or less, it is vanished due to a state-based action. So this can just straight up kill stuff, which is great. So having both of our Tokos as our removal is really, really good. And then of course we run the level 0, because of course you're running level 0. For the piece cards, For the piece cards, I'm running cheap ones. Basically, really, really cost-effective ones, because a lot of the cards in our deck are very resource intensive, and we're just gonna burn through them so quickly. So I'm running the Super Halesta Saber. This is a pretty sweet one. This one, use condition, you have to have a white Elrig and a black Elrig on the field, in which we will always have that. Add up to 1 target white Cygni, 1 target black Cygni, and 1 target colorless Cygni from your trash to your hand. So this is great. Cost 2 to play. We're going to be doing a lot of like dumping stuff into our trash, and being able to get some value out of this is really, really good. And being able to get colorless, you know, is very, very good. Getting those servants. We'll talk about that a little bit later. And then I'm also running the Chime of the Blessed Key. This one's very simple. It just says draw 3 cards and discard 2 cards for 0. So that's what we're running here. I was very much considering running the discard version, but this is what I've settled on for this particular build. I just love being able to pump through your deck, get a bunch of cards, and yeah, just a lot of great value there. And discarding them to some effects can sometimes be beneficial. So let's talk about the main deck here. So the main deck is, like I said, it's like a mid-rangey deck. I don't run a ton of recursion in here, but there's a lot of just cards that give you good card advantage, that are very powerful, kind of hard to deal with. That's kind of what we're going for here. And so we have this Sarah Hoshikawa. This one is just for resources. It's just the 1 cost, 500, and it's the dual light and darkness. So we have that. I'm also running the Roa Yuzuki. And I really like this card because it's just more card advantage. So when it enters, you get to look at the top 2 cards of your deck. You can reveal an Ars Almal, which we're running 4 of in the deck, from among them, and put it into your hand. Then put the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order. That seems like, oh, you know, you're going to miss a lot. But keep in mind, this is just a level 1 Cygni. So this is just, you know, a card to play early. Maybe you get some advantage out of it, but just kind of gums up the board and makes it so you don't die early on. It also has a pretty good burst effect here. And the burst effect says, look at the top 3 cards of your deck, reveal up to 2 Cygni from among them, and add them to your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order, which is great. And they don't have to be virtual Cygni, so you can actually grab servants with Yuzuki here, which is great. So we're running 4 of her. Next up, we have Melissa Kinrenka. This one is a pretty interesting card. So it's a 1-drop. It only has 2,000 power, but kind of has 7,000 power. So it says, as long as there are 5 or more virtual Cygni in your trash, this Cygni gains plus 500 power, or plus 5,000 power. And getting up to 7,000 is pretty good. It also says, enter, put the top 3 cards of your deck into your trash. And that, you know, fuels her own ability, and that can help with some other stuff down the line too. And it also has a burst effect of you may pay 1 of any and a light, and if you do, or I mean, I apologize, 1 of any and a darkness, and if you do, target Cygni on your opponent's field gets minus 12,000 power. So this is a really sweet burst effect. If you have the resources, you can just, you know, kill a guy for the most part. And so we are running 4 of her as well. I really like the burst effects that can alter the game state. Next up, we just have our servants. We're running, you know, all 4. These are just alternate art versions of the same card. This is a key card to any Wixoss deck because it's the only card currently that has this effect. It has Guard, and it just says you may discard this card to prevent damage from a single Elrig attack. And then it has continuous multi-enter. When paying costs with this card, you can use it as any color, which is great. So yeah, the servants are fantastic. Getting them, recurring them, they're really, really good. Next up, we have our level 2 Cygnis with Mirai Gundo. I love this card for many reasons. The art is fantastic, but also the effect is really good. So Mirai is a 5,000 power Cygni, has an enter effect of paying a darkness, and it says, put the top 3 cards of your deck into your trash. Then put target level 1 virtual Cygni from your trash into your field. That's great. So you get to put a level 1 from your trash into your field, but it has to be virtual. But we still have 10 targets here, which is great. So 10 targets is a 1/4 of the deck, so there's a good chance you will hit. And so this is just a really solid way to get 2 Cygni for the price of 1. You get Mirai Gundo plus a level 1, and if you combine this with some solid removal like Toko here, then you can, you know, push a lot of damage through. So I like this card quite a bit. Next up, we have another card advantage card with Meiji Waribita? I'm not sure how you pronounce it, but she's great. So she's another level 2 Cygni, 5,000 attack. Enter for a light resource. Look at the top 3 cards of your deck, reveal a virtual Cygni from among them, add it to your hand, put the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order. So it's just another great card that basically draws you a card, which is super good. And as a burst effect, look at the top 3 cards of your deck, reveal a Cygni from among them, add it to your hand, or on the field, put the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order. That can be any Cygni, and you can put it on the field. Very, very strong. I like this card a ton. Just great value, both by playing it and by having it burst. So really, really good. Next up, we have another, value engine. This is like Value Town here with Ichigo Yushimi. This is a 3,000 level 2, which is pretty weak, but it says whenever the Cygni attacks, reveal the top card of your deck. If that card is a virtual Cygni, draw it. And all of our Cygni are virtual except for the Servant and the 4 spells. So there's 8 cards in the deck that you can whiff on. You're mostly gonna hit. So running 4 of these, just a really, really solid card. And then now we get to talk about our heavy hitters. This is Himawari. Himawari is really, really tricky. I only have 2 of them, so I'm only running 2 of them, but I can see a case for running more of this card. So she's got a big wall of text. All of our level 3s have a big wall of text. This one says, at the beginning of your opponent's main phase, reveal the top card of your deck. If that card is a virtual Cygni, and like we just said, almost the entire deck is, this Cygni gains Shadow until end of turn, which means it cannot be targeted by your opponent. That's not Spell Shadow, that's just Shadow, which makes it almost unkillable for a turn. This is a really annoying card. And it says, action, once per turn for a light resource. Look at the top 3 cards of your deck, reveal a Cygni from among them, add it to your hand, put one of the remaining cards on the top of your deck and the rest on the bottom of your deck in any order. So you can put cards on the top of your deck to kind of stack it for that first ability, just to make it really annoying. So yeah, this is a very annoying card, very, very strong. I think this goes on almost any virtual Niji-Sanji deck. Next up, we're running the Ars All that one card could get early on. And you know what? By that one card, we will be proper here. We will be proper, the Yuzuki. So this is the one where you're gonna look at the top 2 cards of your deck, and if it's the Ars All, you're gonna put it in your hand. Well, this is that card that we're talking about. So what does it actually do? So it's a standard 12,000 level 3. It can only go in Team Sanbaka decks. And it says, auto, whenever the Cygni attacks, if its power is 20,000 or more, you may discard a card. If you do, return target Cygni from your opponent's field to its hand, which is really good. And then it also has a once per turn effect of a light resource. You may reveal any number of virtual Cygni from your hand until end of turn. This Cygni gains plus 1,000 power for each card revealed this way. So to get up to that 20,000, you'd have to reveal 8, which is a lot because this is 12,000. But remember, at the start I mentioned Ange has this ability of a once per turn effect of pumping up our virtual Cygni by 4,000. So if we have our level 3, we can always choose this as the target, pumping it up to 16,000. So we only need to pump it up by another 4,000. So we just need 4 more virtual Cygnis, and we have so many ways to draw cards or get cards back or just put cards in our hand in this deck. That's basically what this deck does, right? That there's going to be a chance that we have this as a 20,000. And if we're coming in for 20,000 and bouncing one of their things, this is just a really good way to, assure that you're going to be dealing some damage to their opponent's life cloth. So really, really like this card quite a bit. We are running the full play set. It's kind of like our win condition. But we also have another win condition with Lulu Suzuhara. This card is crazy, and she's crazy, and I love it. I love this card. So this is another card that you can only put in Sanbaka decks. It has a constant effect, or a continuous effect of, you do not move cards from your life cloth to your trash due to refreshing. So this is how we don't die to decking, right? Because in Wixoss, when you deck, you just shuffle the cards back together and then you lose a life cloth. But with Lulu out there, we don't. We don't lose the life cloth. And we're gonna be pumping through our deck super quickly, so this card is really, really important. And she also has a really good effect of action once per turn for one of any resource and a darkness one. Target Cygni on your opponent's field gains minus 10,000 power until end of turn. put the top 10 cards of your deck into the trash. So you deck yourself pretty quick, but it doesn't really matter because you don't lose life cloth due to refreshing. So this card's great. It just kills things, and cycles through our deck. Really, really sweet. So we are running a full set of the Lulu. And then finally, we just have a couple spells. And the spells are the ones I'm like iffy about. This one is Darkness Eater. I do really like this one. This is a 2 black and 2 of any. Also, the art is just like so good. It says target Cygni on your opponent's field gets minus 12,000 power until end of turn, which is great. It also has a burst effect of target Cygni on your opponent's field gets minus 12,000 power until end of turn, which is great. So I'm running 2 of these. I don't know if we should be running 4 of these and less of this, but I think they're comparable, right? So this one is Furin Slash, which is a beautiful card. This one costs more, so it costs 2 light and 3. So this one technically costs 5 to play, but this is unconditional, right? So it just says return target Cygni to your opponent on your opponent's field to its owner's hand, and that has the burst effect of the exact same thing. Return target Cygni on your opponent's field to its owner's hand. So it's just an unconditional bounce. It doesn't kill it, but it does put it back in your opponent's hand. And there's pluses and minuses to that, honestly, because in Wixoss, when you vanish something, like the Darkness Eater would do if it kills something, it goes into your opponent's enter zone, right? So they could then use it for resources. Well, if it's put back into their hand, they can't do that, other than, using it as their, 1 per turn thing. So I see some pluses and minuses for these. I really like the Furin Slash, but it costs 5 to play, whereas this one costs 4. And they're both kind of spendy for this deck, so I didn't really put a ton of them, but they also have really, really good burst abilities. And you got to keep that in mind. Like I said at the start, we don't have any cards that have enter on them to ramp us. So all of these cards all of these costs are gonna come from our opponents vanishing our own stuff, or us doing that during our enter step. And there's a lot of costs in this deck. So there's like these. This one has a cost of 2. Ours, Almal, has a cost of 1 on her ability. Himawari has a cost of 1. Like, Ameiji has a cost of 1 on her. Mirai Gundo has a cost of 1. Like, there's a lot of cards that just incidentally cost a couple. The burst on this one costs 2. So that's just stuff that we really have to pay attention to. And it's one of the reasons why I'm not running certain cards and why I am running some of these cards, and why a lot of our Elrigs here and our peace cards are very, very cheap and inexpensive to play, 0 cost and a 2 cost here, as opposed to playing some of the really big, splashy, expensive versions. But yeah, that is our Niji Sanji Virtual Center Anji deck, or something like that. I'm not sure exactly how the naming conventions for this game are going to be, but I really like this deck. I think it's a really good starting point if you bought a bunch of booster boxes and just want to build a deck. I think this is a good way to go. There's a lot of different options you can do with the virtual. Well, there's a couple different options you can do with the virtual, but I'm really excited to build more Wixoss decks, especially as more sets come out. If there's any in particular that you'd like me to do, please let me know and maybe I can build some. My next deck tech will likely be on Mono Red Towel. So until we get there, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.